Welcome to the Mixing Room.
I'm Daniel,
I'm Trent.
and today we have a great episode with Sierra Jean just for you.
Yeah, it's taken us a little bit to get this episode with Sierra Jean out to you guys because we are very much still figuring out this podcasting thing, but you are going to hear a lot more about that from past us.
Take a listen. But this is the pilot episode of our new series, The Mixing Room.
Yeah, this is a series that comes as a result of a lot of our experiences around Nashville, where we live in the music industry, and just in our community otherwise.
Yeah, not to mention our longtime friendship at this point, too.
Absolutely.
And so we're really excited to be bringing folks that we believe in from mainly within the music industry, but perhaps some more will come into. We're really excited to be bringing these folks to our table to talk with us, and so that you can have the opportunity at home to listen, to watch, and to maybe gain some wisdom from them too. And one promise we've made to each other is we won't have a guest that's just there to be a guest. We want to have people that we really think have valuable things to say, have art or business or creations that are worth sharing. And this is a project that we are, again, in the very early stages of. So we hope that we have your support.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have lots of stories to tell as well. I think we would like to introduce each other a little bit, but because of our friendship, I think a fun way to do that would be to introduce each other.
Yeah, I don't want to brag on myself, and Trent don't want to brag on himself. So we're going to do this the kind of first day of school way of, instead of doing a name, major, hometown, we're going to switch it up, and he's going to have to talk about me, and I'm going to have to talk about him. So let's hope I've learned enough over the past 3 years or so.
And this is fairly not planned ahead, so we're just going to see what we know. All right.
Well, should we start with what we have in common?
Sure.
Yeah. Let's start from there, and then we can kind of build.
Yeah.
Wait, but you seemed like you had a strong pitch, though.
I had half of an idea. I was going to see where it went. But
That's kind of the mixing room, though.
Things we have in common.
We
We both attended Belmont University for music business.
both graduated in May of 2024.
We both have played guitar and sing for a long time.
In fact, we've shared the stage as bandmates, both in times in which I've been a frontman and in times which some of our friends have been fronting the band as well.
We have both tossed this idea around for
a long time. We have had many conversations over adult beverages in a variety of settings, talking about the idea of bringing people together around a common table. And not only were we both Belmont students and Belmont graduates, we took a lot of classes together, not in the music business program, but in the Belmont Honors program.
Sure. We have worked on several projects through that together in our community, addressing things like food insecurity, but then also just generally, I don't know how to finish that.
We were roommates. Our sophomore year, we were roommates, and in the years since, we have pretty much spent all of our time hanging out anyway.
Yeah, more or less.
Sleeping under different roofs, but waking up each day and kind of figuring out where we're at. And we've done a lot.
It's not a complete morning without getting a tweet or tweet sent to me from Dan. Something. Yeah. I'm going to introduce him first, I guess.
All right, let's hear what you got. I'll critique you.
Other than some of our commonalities, Dan is from Durham, North Carolina. He has been in bands for a long time, including his band Jukebox back in high school. During his time at Belmont, he was the host of Showcase for a couple years. Worked in things like Broom Recruiters and all other sorts of things across campus. You know, he's a well-known guy in that community, so you might recognize him.
Trent's a pretty well-known guy too. He just doesn't. He's a little too humble to say that. Trent grew up in the great state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Trent also has been playing music for a long time. Your band in high school, remind me that band?
King's
Edge. And that was not quite the same. Like, Jukebox was the same genre as a lot of what we did in college, but King's Edge was a little different.
Well, we've touched on some of those genres a little bit with opportunities like playing with friends like Sierra Jean Music, which we'll get more to later. But
yes, we will. But yes, so, and then Trent, of course, came to Belmont and became very involved in a lot of the same ways I did, if you couldn't tell by our shared introduction. Trent has kind of always been a right hand man to me. And as much as I have been a very vocal and out front presence in a lot of the things that I did in my time at college, those were things that really we did in our time at college that Trent had very much a behind the scenes role in. Matter of fact, as I am talking to, well, I guess we'll call camera one right now, Trent has his hands on the keyboard and is switching between camera angles. So once again, he is proving to be the driving force behind my success. I get to sit here and talk and look good, but he has been putting in so much work behind the scenes. It's ridiculous, and I'm really grateful for it.
Goes right into the fact that we are still very much figuring this out. We are still figuring out how to run a podcast, how to co-host while making sure the technical side of things gets handled. And there are still several things that we don't have figured out with this podcast yet.
Right. It's our pilot episode. So we do not yet even have a theme song. We're looking at doing some better social media things. We want to get some professional photos done. We want to. What else? I guess we want to figure out the rest of our sentence. But no, we want to get a theme song. We want to get professional photos done. We need to get a logo done. And we really wanted to get this started because of how much we've talked about it and how confident we are in the concept. And we've really kind of done all the thinking we can do. At this point, it's just about doing it. But we need your help. So if you're listening to today's show and if you want to be a part of our journey, if you're interested in being a part of this team or even just being a part for a day, please reach out to us. Get in touch with one of us personally or respond to the podcast on one of our podcast social media channels, all of which we will have linked and provided for you, and we will have shoved down your throats because we want to get this out there in as significant of a way as possible.
Debatably, the biggest part of us starting this podcast is the community. So please reach out. Let us know if you would like to do this.
Well, and I think community is a big component because that's how we got to this concept. Part of the reason why we came up with the name The Mixing Room was, of course, it has that kind of tongue-in-cheek reference to the music industry and mixing, but it's also about going to mixer events and making connections. And one thing that we want to be very consistent about with this show, as we said earlier, is bringing people in that we believe in, but then allowing those people to connect with each other, much like how we connected with each other and have seen success over the years in college and now beyond that.
Is there anything else we need to say?
Well, we need to tell them about who our guest is for the pilot because obviously we want to, like we said, we want to have a lot of different people that we believe in on this show. But there was, tell you the truth, a very short list of folks that we would want to have for episode 1. And I think today's guest was obviously on that list, and she may have been at the top of it. Today we're going to be talking to Sierra Jean. Sierra's been a friend of mine for about as long as I've known Trent, actually, because she and I met at the start of sophomore year. I guess we really met the end of freshman year of college.
Yeah, pretty close in timeline, though.
Yeah, and she has had an incredible journey that I will let her articulate better than I could right now. But she just put out an EP. She's got singles that are out. We just filmed a music video with her. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We've been playing shows promoting her release. She's got a lot of momentum behind her. It's a project that I'm really proud of and that I think is worth listening to her talk about. It's worth listening to checking out that EP. It's called Diary of a Heartbreak Icon. It's out now, and we're going to be talking to Sierra Jean today. Do you have anything you want to say about Sierra before we bring her in?
I think you've really covered it well. Without further ado, I think we're going to bring on our today's guest, Sierra Jean.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Sierra Jean, welcome to the Mixing Room. We're really happy to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Of course. There's been a lot going on recently in your life and your career.
Yeah.
Tell us just a couple of those things maybe that have been happening.
Sure. So on October 25th, I released my first studio EP called Diary of a Heartbreak Icon. And we did a listening party on the rooftop of JBJ's on Broadway on Wednesday.
Yeah, we did.
And then we played a sold out house show on Friday, and that was really fun. Shout out to Clay for inviting me. And shout out to JBJ's for having us there too. It's been a lot of fun. And also This Far has a remix of it. one of my singles, and it's currently playing on Sirius XM Utopia right now. So that's really, really fun and exciting. And Stonebridge was awesome with that. He put that together, and it sounds really cool. So a lot of fun things are going on, and it was also my birthday, so I am 23 now.
So many congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Talk to us about high school, graduating high school pre-COVID, what your initial college looked like. Kind of, I know that story, but take our audience through that.
Okay, so then we're gonna talk about the POTS thing, because there is no world where like the pre-COVID going to Wilmington, all that stuff wouldn't exist like without POTS.
Right.
So I was diagnosed with POTS when I was 14 in 2016, and it was pretty bad. They recommended that I was homeschooled actually, and I was like, no. Like I was a freshman in high school. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be homeschooled. I want to have a regular freshman year. I want to have a regular high school experience. So they said, okay, the only other thing we can recommend for you, and it might be really difficult, but you can use a mobility aid. You can use a wheelchair. And I was like, I would rather do that than not see my friends, because you're 14, and it's high school, and you finally get to high school, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, maybe you should not go.
Yeah.
So
that Disney Channel image you had in your head of high school?
Mm-hmm.
There that goes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's college. But anyway, circling back.
It is. It was.
It was. But I worked through that. I did physical therapy, did all that stuff. Did go to high school for many years, on and off, for the whole entire 4 years, on and off in a wheelchair when I didn't feel good with POTS. POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And you get dizzy, and sometimes you faint, so that's a liability issue for your public school. And they're like, hey, maybe you should like go in a wheelchair, and I'm like, that works for me. I can't walk by myself anyway, so we have a win-win situation. I get educated and still get to go to school. And no liability. Anyways, so did that. That was kind of like really navigating, like all those 4 years was all about that. So it got really bad again in 2018, in fall of 2018, and just out of nowhere, because healing is not linear.
And
That's
fall of 2018 you were
I was a senior.
Senior.
I was a senior, and fall of 2018 I was a senior. I applied to go to Belmont. I wanted to go to Belmont. Belmont was my number one school. But Belmont was 6.5 hours away from where I was currently living. And I was so bad at that point that they actually homebounded me. So it's different than homeschool, because they would I was still in the classes technically, but one teacher would come like to my home every week and give me like homework to do, like that the homework that they had to do, and also online, like it was a little bit easier to do that when you had like a computer, and hey, here's this thing like that you have to do, just email, stuff like that. But stuff that couldn't be emailed was given to me, and I just worked through that. And then I tried to come back my second semester of high school, well, of my senior year in high school, and it just didn't work. I got mono. I was hospitalized. Life threw me for a loop, and like that was just not it. Yeah. So they graduated me early. They basically said, well, you have all your credits anyways, so we're just going to graduate you early. You can still walk with your class, but like in June. So that was great. I did get to walk with my school, but they basically graduated me early, and I didn't go to school past March of 2019. So when
you also lost in March of your senior year, you also had a cutoff that we experienced a year later in a very different way.
Yes, exactly. And that's the crazy part. Like how we all have that experience, but my experience is like completely different from what actually happened. But
yeah,
friends,
you ultimately did actually get to walk.
Yes, and I did and I did get to walk, and I got to walk. That was the good thing. I did work on myself. That was a blessing, because I was able to not focus on school for about 6 months and work on doing physical therapy, getting myself better, managing my symptoms, stuff like that, having less stress because now I don't have to work on high school stuff. So I prepared myself to go to college. And then by the time college rolled around, I went to UNCW.
Well, yeah. So talk about that, because then we end up on the same kind of time frame, in the sense of March of our senior year of high school. Things change drastically. Ultimately, we kind of end up having some sort of commemoration of graduation.
Mhm.
I end up meeting you in the fall of 2021 at Belmont, but obviously me graduating high school in May of 20 is different than you graduating in 2019.
Yes.
So what did that window of time, how did that, I guess, inform your experience, inform your individuality, your growth, so that when you get to Belmont, you're as well-rounded of a person and as maybe confident. I don't know if you felt confident coming in.
Yeah.
But tell us about that kind of year and a half that you had in between the end of your high school experience, the start of your Belmont experience in college.
Mm-hmm. So I went to UNCW, University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and I was I was a music technology major. So basically, I wanted to do the same exact thing as if I was a music business major at Belmont, but that just didn't work out because it was a completely different degree. You still were in the music school, but the good thing about that is that my voice grew so much stronger because I did have to take some years off in between doing my music and flying back and forth to LA and doing all that stuff and coming to Belmont. So, and restarting all of the music stuff again. So, going and being professionally classically trained grew my voice in a way that I didn't even know that was possible. I remember them listening to me and literally saying, like the professor saying to me, I can tell you're a rock singer by the way that you sing. And I was like, okay. Like I
So
should
were you ever trained before that?
I had voice lessons, but I was never classically trained.
Were those like
And
at home, or was that like during high school, like in a classroom setting?
no, that was at home. I was it was like after school type stuff. I had a music school back home too that also put together little rock bands and stuff like that every like couple of months, and we were able to all like perform and do a set together. So that was always really really fun, and that gained me like I gained so much experience from that too and what we do now,
Yeah.
which it feels like the exact same, and I'm really thankful that I even got to do that because what we do and when we practice it just feels the exact same. It's like, oh, I've known this my entire life. So
Right.
that
right.
is good.
Well, and I'm excited to get to some of what we do in a little bit, but
Mhm.
and I know I'm going on a tangent here, but did you ever do theater?
Yes.
Okay. Did
Mhm.
you pick up voice stuff from theater too, or was that
Yes.
just like okay?
So I did theater, I did choir too in high school. But that also helped because then in choir you have to like learn how to blend your voices and and you are classically trained a little bit more because you all have to be so you can be one unit and one voice.
Right.
So I did learn a lot from that too. But
Trent, you did theater too, right?
yes.
Oh, of course I did.
God, the three theater people to musician singer pipeline here is strong
Oh,
at this table.
Yeah.
Do you still did your like vocal warm ups and stuff that you did in theater? Do you still do that now?
oh my god.
Like before things?
Of course. Yeah. No, every warm up I do is, well, I'll be honest. Gotta admit. I was gonna say every single one comes from theater. That's almost true. Of course, you gotta find a couple YouTube videos you really like.
Yep.
Those would be. But everything else,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
you've both sent me useful YouTube videos. But a lot of what I mean, at the very least, the baseline of what I've learned to do has been from theater.
Yes.
So I think
100%.
that's got to be they should do a study on that, because
Right.
I think a lot of people go through that pipeline of doing theater to learn how to be on a stage, to
Mhm.
learn how to have a stage presence, to learn how to use their voice at least preliminarily, and then they kind of jump into their artist phase.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go back to your initial college experience
Yes.
at least
So
at UNCW.
So the one thing that I really took from it that always sticks with me is that we were, I think, some sort of like music seminar we were at, performing and practicing for the music seminar the next day. But one of my friends came in late, and the professor looked at him and said, "Did you do your warm ups?" And he said, "No." And the professor said, "Go back outside, do your warm ups, and come back, and I won't count you as late." because it's better to warm up your voice than to be here on time. So that really stuck with me because the importance of warm-ups, you don't think about it, but it helps so much. And I've always known that, but whenever I'm like, oh man, like I'm late, like I gotta blah blah blah, like no, like you should be late if the reason why you are late is because of the warm-ups, because your voice, you only have one voice, you only have, your one self that is your instrument. So warming up actually is half the battle.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it's an endurance thing. I think a lot of people think, oh, I need to do warm-ups so I can hit the notes. Well, if I can hit the notes, I'll be fine. But it's not so much about can you hit the notes tonight. It's can you hit the notes tonight and tomorrow and the next day? And can you do it for that period of time?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important thing that I think the theater thing instilled in us was, if you're doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and a matinee Sunday, you have to be able to perform consistently.
Yeah.
And that kind of vocal health culture is a really good thing to learn at a young age.
Yeah. That and then Belmont really taught about hearing and the importance of your hearing. That is the other thing. And I know like we're skipping like, a little bit forward.
That's
but
okay.
What I took from Wilmington is about the voice, because that was what I was taught about my voice and how to grow my voice and strengthen it and all that stuff. But Belmont, because I was and we all were music business majors, the hearing component of it and having to critically listen to all, and we were all production emphasis too. Yeah. So the critical listening.
I had to look to Trent to make sure that was factually accurate. We've only been friends for like 3-4 years now. I ought to know.
But the hearing component is crazy because the critical listening, and also we are around loud instruments all the time. So, and we go to concerts all the time to go see our friends, to go see people that, are a little bit at a larger scale, stuff like that. But we're consistently around that. And if we don't have earplugs or something like that, like then it's going to consistently be impacted. Maybe not like a lot, but if you go to enough things, then, and which is kind of a requirement of who we are.
It's another endurance thing.
Yes.
You can go to a loud event on one night and you'll be probably fine, but can you do that consistently time and time again?
Yeah.
And protecting your voice, protecting your hearing. I think those are probably undervalued skills that obviously you learned at UNCW and then at Belmont that, a lot of people in our generation, I hope would take seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, you can try the hard way and learn the hard way if you don't.
Yeah. I mean, and also my dad is the reason why I got into music in the first place. And he has always said about that too, because he's like, I took a nap on accident next to a speaker when I was a kid. He's like, and now like, I feel like it's completely different, and, making sure that your hearing is like, because like they didn't think about the long-term effects of it basically. So like, It's an endurance thing, because if we want to consistently keep on doing this at the level that we are and further, then taking care of yourself. And that's something I had to learn, period, like end of story, with walking, with not being able to not being able to walk on my own, is that without your health there is nothing. Yeah. So, and that's with your voice. If you don't have, if you're not warming up, if you are just consistently screaming for some reason, like, the lyrics and stuff like that, like, and like that, you're going to consistently do that, and you're not taking care of yourself, like, then there's a threshold that's going to be met. So I think that's also why those things stuck with me so much, is because I had to learn that the baseline for everything is your health. Because if you're going and going, sometimes it'll just stop.
Yeah. So. And I think endurance and health in the physical sense, in the mental sense, the vocal sense, any sense you want to categorize it in, perhaps shines through very honestly in your project. I mean, if you're listening to this EP that you just put out, it's in there. It's if not in the direct lyricism, in some of the subtext. And I mean, obviously, This Far comes to mind when you're talking about something like Endurance.
Yeah.
That song. First of all, just has such an impressive loud arrangement. Something that you're tempted to not listen to at healthy volumes, perhaps. But tell us about This Far, because that came out as a single and then as a remix, and I think it deserves the attention it's getting and then some. But tell us about where that came from.
Well, the crazy thing is that This Far wasn't supposed to reach anybody's ears. I wrote it in therapy. Actually, I it was like a homework assignment essentially of like, oh, like, I know you're talking, but like, I know you're a songwriter. If that feels good to you, would you want to write a song so it can be a healthy outlet, and also so I can understand what you're feeling? And I came back the next week with a guitar, and I had This Far written. But I had This Far written without the bridge, and that is very important to note, because I've had this song for like 2 years, and the bridge of I didn't come this far just to get this far, and then the outro of I didn't come this far just to get this far, going from like unsure of like exasperation to in the end like I didn't come this far just to get this far, meaning like I will make sure that and there was no spin on it either. It was just not it was just like the bare bones of it. So it became something. It was at first extremely sad. It was at first extremely sad. And then as I kept it and I worked on it more and more and more, and I was dealing with working on myself and working on my mental health as well, I realized that I wanted the song to also reflect that instead of just being the same the entire time. I wanted there to be a plot throughout the song, essentially, and also what I personally believe in too. I didn't want it to just be one way. So This Far is extremely vulnerable to me and to even put out, because that is my first song that I've written completely by myself that I put out. Everything else has been co-writes, yes. So This Far is the first song that I've put out completely by myself, with like in the writing sense, and it's extremely special to me, and I realized that it was worth it to put it out if someone else could relate, because I was like, you want to keep something that's like that. It's like my fight song. Like, so like,
Yeah.
like it's, if someone else could relate to that, then that's worth it, because like, sometimes you want to just protect yourself, and like, it's very interesting going from like child pop star to, hey, I struggle, and other people struggle, and maybe you can relate to this, but like stuff like that. I went, and like, it's very reflective, but it was very new for me, so it was extremely rewarding to be able to put this out, but it was also extremely scary. But I think the reception of it makes me feel like it was worth it. I mean, it was worth it even if one person related to it, but
Yeah.
I yeah.
Well, and I know that at least one person did, because for our audience at home who doesn't know, years ago when you first had this concept or were first writing the song, I was talking to you at a time in life when I felt kind of in between things and stuck.
Mhm.
And you brought that chorus, or at least that main line of it, to me,
Mhm.
and basically said, "This is how I'm feeling right now. I didn't come this far to be this far,
Mhm.
and I'm going to keep going.
Mhm.
And this is a message that resonates with me." And by kind of that vulnerability in that moment, it gave me strength. And so that's why I'm proud of this project and proud of you. And that's why I've had such a blast promoting it. Again, for those who don't know, Trent and I have been playing shows with you, promoting this release.
I did want to ask about This Far. It was written. You said it was written in it or for therapy in this time of perhaps struggling with several different things, and now, of course, with what Daniel said, we know that it can also mean several different things.
Mhm.
So I was wondering, like, how the meaning has changed for you, if it has, the importance of it being able to mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. Originally, it was the struggle of coming to Belmont, doing the hard thing, transferring with my health, even, working so hard to be able to not have to rely on mobility aids and stuff like that, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I came back to a place where I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to rely on that consistently. So that makes me feel good. I've worked so hard to get here, and then I realized that COVID really took a toll on my mental, and the whole really grief of the fact that I did so much with music at such a young age, and now I'm back here, and now I have to start from ground zero. Because that, being at such a point of being somewhere with your music, doing all of that, consistently writing new stuff, consistently putting out new music, to having to basically be in survival mode to make sure that I'm able to even walk, to now doing all the hard things, and then realizing, oh my gosh, there's still so much in front of me. And that's why the lyric, and for every hoop I jump through, there's another one waiting patiently. I wrote that because that was one of the first ones I wrote. And then the other one that I wrote that I really wanted to take home, that I wanted people to take with them, is my path feels like a treadmill, some sort of twisted standstill. Because a path is supposed to be, you can see the path. But if the path is the treadmill, then you're in a hamster wheel, essentially.
Yeah.
And I wanted to evoke that feeling of, and portraying that, I feel like I'm in a hamster wheel, and also a literal treadmill, because that's how I used to work out when I couldn't even walk on my own. I would hold on for dear life to the treadmill and put it on the lowest setting that or the highest setting that I possibly can, but it was a pretty low setting, and just walk. So that takes on layers of,
Yeah.
of meanings.
Well, and that points to there's a level of intentionality, obviously, that you just articulated. And I think even in the every hoop I jump through, there's one more waiting patiently. I think patiently is a very intentional word there. And that resonates even with me, just interpreting it yet again, reflecting on it in the moment now, because I think a lot of life's challenges, whether they are something as dire as I need to learn how to confidently walk, or whether it's something as silly as I need to make sure that I pay the bills at the start of the month.
Yeah.
If you don't address whatever is, I don't want to say plaguing you, but whatever is in your way right now, whether it's something small or something very significant, patiently, that problem awaits you.
Yeah.
And it will go unaddressed. And even if you do address whatever's in your way today, tomorrow there will be something else.
Yeah.
And I think part of maturity is learning to address. And perhaps this far is the ultimate addressing, because it says, basically, there's no giving up, because if I gave up, the challenge would still be there. And if I succeed, there will still be another.
Yes.
So in that space, why not keep going?
Yes.
Because even if you don't, you're going to have to.
Yes. It's choose your hard. Everything is hard. Choose your hard. That is what, that is kind of the essence of it. And then as I moved through my life, keeping the song with me, not releasing it yet, I did go through a breakup. And it was ultimately because of the different values that we had and the different paths that we wanted to go on, and I wanted to continue to pursue my music. And there became a point in time where something was said along the lines of, why are you still trying to do it? And in that moment, this far became more of a confident song instead for me as I play it, because again, my fight song, if I need to go back to it, I'll just play it on the guitar because it was just me and the guitar, it's more of a, I'm not giving up, because I deserve to choose myself. I owe it to myself, through all of the stuff that I've gone through, to try again, to go through it again, because I owe it to myself, and that's kind of just how I felt. But this far took on a different meaning, and then that's why it sets up the rest of the EP so well, because it might not have actually been about the relationship or the breakup or the heartbreak that I went through, but it became something that caused this song caused me to be confident in myself, to choose myself to make the other songs. So that's why it is the first one, and that's why I wanted to make sure it was the first single at least, off of the EP, because it has such a magnitude of meaning and power to me. So
Yeah, I mean, clearly it does, and I think, like I've said in other ways, I think that magnitude's going to resonate.
thank
But
you.
we gotta get to some of those other songs, because I think one of them actually plays really well into what you were just saying. Perhaps it's something that Trent can talk to you more about, because I don't know how much we're supposed to say, but I know that there's a music video we've been involved in that we're really excited about. Talk to us about that video, about that song, because I think that kind of flows from the point that you were just articulating.
Yes. So I view Diary of a Heartbreak Icon as the stages of grief. You can almost like analyze it as, so like memories of the strangers, anger for sure, and like almost like denial too. Like it's kind of like in there. But Songs About You, the one that you're referring to, is about acceptance. And when Sam, one of our friends, and also the bassist
Yeah,
that's been playing with us,
Sam Sparrow co-wrote this one.
yes, I told him about what the EP was about, and he said, "This sounds like a song that I've had in the back of my pocket." I was like, "Okay, cool, let me hear it." And he played me the chorus, and tears just start streaming down my face, because it's exactly what I felt. And this has been going on for a while, and that's also why, but like I'm excited that this is out in the world, because now these songs and this journey kind of has like a bow on it, basically. And you know promoting it is one thing, but like recording it and being in the moment, and taking yourself back to that place to record it, to write all the things, is a little bit challenging. So but I really, this was the last song that we wrote for the EP, and it is the last song on the EP, but it is very much that acceptance point, and that's exactly where I was in that moment of, I'm choosing myself. I am doing this, because the chorus is, and I'll be out in Nashville writing songs about you, but I'll be in Tennessee chasing my destiny. So it wraps up the EP so beautifully, that, and I love it so much, that I thought it definitely, and also the imagery in the song definitely felt like it called for a music video. And I knew that, and I was thinking about this. I was like, okay, how can we do this? And honestly, I was inspired by what my childhood self thought that the Speak Now music video should have looked like. Because Speak Now by Taylor Swift, I feel like, is such a beautiful song, and it is told like from a songwriting standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, so well that I create music videos in my head when I listen to music. That's something that I do. I mean, a lot of people do that, but that is something that I've always done. I love to do that. But I've always had this perfect idea of what the Speak Now music video should look like, and it's like, it would be the guy running away, but I kind of took inspiration from that, of what I thought that should have looked like, and I made it into the reality of this song, in the context of this song. And it's a dramatized version of like, what would have actually happened, or anything like that. But I think it's really, really fun, and I'm so thankful for you, Trent, to be there.
Well, yeah, Trent, do you want to talk a little bit about
do you want
this?
to talk about it?
Be vulnerable. If there's something we can't share with the public yet, we can clip it. But
Okay, sure.
talk about the shoot. What were you? Why is Sierra thanking you?
Okay, so I got to play a really, really cool role in this music video of the would-be groom, which was a really cool opportunity. I had a ton of fun standing on my feet for all day.
He borrowed my dress shoes, and he complained a lot. Not a lot, but enough that I knew that his feet were bothering.
It actually didn't even take all day. We were very efficient about it, to be honest.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah. Well,
no.
that's thanks to your director.
That is true.
Shout out Anna Ramsey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that were putting in work to make that happen. And
Mhm.
it was, I think, a fairly successful process. I don't know how the final product came out yet necessarily, but the process went extremely well.
Yeah.
And it really was a testament to the community we have already.
Yes. 100%. And that is also why it feels very full circle, because I was able to call upon all of you and all of our friends and said, hey, I have this crazy idea for a music video where I'm a runaway bride. You guys want to see me? Like, you guys want to be there? And that was just a really, really fun thing that everybody showed up for. And so many people had a hand in the recording of it and in the writing of it. So just like the fact that we could all come together for the music video and just hang out too, because it really didn't feel like it was too crazy. It just felt like it was all of us hanging out in a really weird context.
Which, to be fair, is most of the times we hang out. That's just kind of how it goes. And like, you know, real quick to go into that for a second, I think the reason why that community is there and has been there, and I bet if we did this a year from now that the same result would have occurred, is because we've all been kind of ride or die in these, you know, kind of unpredictable, you know, scenarios. I mean, God, what have I known you over 3 years now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's one of your standout moments from your friendship with me and Trent? Either of me, of him, both. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but just so that people who don't know you or don't know us know, like, okay, we can say we've been friends a long time, but what's something that really articulates that, really presents that well?
Okay, I'm gonna go all the way back to maybe it's February, maybe it's January of 2022. And we're all at Starbucks because our Starbucks was closed.
Starbucks, yeah. Starbucks on campus was like, it was a Sunday.
There
it was closed for
something was wrong with the Starbucks.
Yeah.
So we went to the coffee shop off campus, and you guys just finished like the day before or 2 days before. You guys did a gig at 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 a bar.
Say it.
at a bar. And you were telling me that this one lady kept on asking you to play a song, but you had no clue what the song was because the lady kept on just singing you the bridge of the song.
Yes, and we even asked her, we were pretty sure that what she wanted was Morgan Wallen's whiskey glasses. The way that what she was singing, the way she was doing the motion. And we kept being like, is it this one? And she was like, no. And then if I remember correctly, somebody said like, no, it's a James Taylor song. And I was like, that's not, no. She had some requests. Anyway, that could be its own episode. But anyway.
But I was thinking that stands out to me because that was like the first time we actually all hung out that like it wasn't required of us to like be in proximity of each other. Like,
yeah.
So like it was just because we wanted to. So that was like that, but that was so much fun. Like we just sat there and we talked about so many things and related to music and to not. And the way that turns into where we are right now, post grad, sitting at a table with you guys. You guys just played 2 shows with me last week, you know, at JBJ's, which full circle moment again, because
right.
We love John Bon Jovi.
That's getting clipped. Mark the timestamp. Well, we've only met him and his bandmates.
You've met him twice.
Yeah, but I mean, how many times have we run into his people?
Many times.
Anyway.
But like it's such a full circle thing, and that's also why I wanted to make sure that you guys were the people that played these shows with me. And I made it a point for it to be you two. Specifically you two, really. Because of everything that we've done, and you have always taken me on with every single gig that you guys have played since 2022. So I not only wanted to say thank you, but also wanted to experience that moment with you guys, because that was the coolest thing ever, really. That we had all of our friends, like, really, the full circle moment is almost everyone that we knew at the 5th floor of JBJ's, and we were playing the EP for the
The
first
EP
time.
at 8:00 on a Wednesday, which, by the way, not to get away from, thank you so much. It's so kind of you to say all that. Just want to get that out there.
Of course.
Notice Trent didn't say thank you.
I think at some point, maybe.
No, but you're right to prove to make that point. 8:00 on a Wednesday night at a Broadway bar. There are other things that people who live here need to do with their week and with
Yes.
their time.
Mhm.
And the fact that we had such a turnout
Mhm.
on that night of people, again, who paid to park, who had to go all the way up to the top floor
Mhm.
of, a relatively new bar,
Yes.
that they just kind of wanted to share in that with you,
Yeah.
with us, but with you.
Mhm.
I think that's really remarkable and speaks a lot to the fortune we've had as far as making friends and keeping connections throughout college and then beyond.
100%. And half of that is that we all stayed.
Yes.
And the Rock and Roll Opry was awesome. And the fact that John Bon Jovi and their whole entire management team at JBJ's allows the Rock and Roll Opry to have a space there every week, and for the Rock and Roll Opry to take chances on rock artists specifically,
Yeah.
in a place where we're known for country, is an incredible thing for them to do.
And to the best of my knowledge, they're the only original music on Broadway, right?
Yes.
Everybody's covers.
Yes.
So the fact that Rock and Roll Opera gets to do that, the fact that JBJ's, that John, that whole team lets that event take place every week,
Yes.
an incredible opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk to you now about, I want to end this kind of the same way we end your set.
Okay.
With going all the way back to the beginning with All That I Want, because people may know that you released this song last year, but really it was 10 years earlier that it first saw the light of day.
Yes.
So give us a little bit of that experience, even though, now you are this far and beyond. Take us back to that a little bit and tell us about that.
Okay, so All That I Want is my favorite out of all of my songs that I did prior to this EP. All That I Want was my second song I ever put out. I was found on YouTube in 2013, and I met with major record labels. We did demos, and one of those demos was All That I Want. And All That I Want was the song that the major labels and all the executives really liked. So we chose that one to do the music video for, because they wanted a little bit more content, to see if I could do a music video, because I've just never done that before. And I was also 11. So I know I say 2013, that can mean anything to anyone. I was 11 years old, and I was working, and I was so fortunate to have that experience, to even say that I could do that. And I do look back on it fondly, because I'm just doing the same exact stuff that I'm doing right now. And like, that's awesome. Like, and the fact that I got back to that moment is really rewarding for me too. But I've always known I wanted to do this. So we did the music video for All That I Want, and then we did a couple other songs and stuff like that. And then I got POTS. So there was, between 2013 and 2016, I did 3 years of me consistently releasing music videos, all that stuff. And then I got POTS, and that had to slow down, and we know that. So, but going back and forth to LA and like doing the music video thing, learning how a studio worked. Like, my first studio that I ever stepped into was Paramount Studios in Los Angeles, California. That is a crazy experience for anybody to say that was their first studio that they ever walked into, and also to be 11 years old while that's happening. So, and I worked with a lot of Hollywood and industry veterans too that helped me, and even helped with the way that I was like performing on stage. I always have a natural stage presence, but there is a formula to it, and I keep that formula with me to this day.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing thing. But All That I Want, the only thing with All That I Want is that the first version of it, is that I was 11 and I didn't know anything about what I wanted to sound like. I did. I wanted to be pop rock, but I didn't know how to articulate that at the time because I'm 11 and this is a demo. And everybody really liked All That I Want, though. So when I gained all of the knowledge that I did about recording, about how to record in the studio yourself, how to do all of those things, how to mix and master, and not saying that I was the one mixing and mastering, at that time, but like that process and how to do that on your own. I wanted to basically do a test run for the EP. And that's truly half the reason. Half the reason is doing a test run for the rest of my stuff. So, because it's essentially a song that we already know how it goes. I reimagined it and I did rewrite the lyrics so it could fit my situation a little bit better. But also it's because I wanted to take all in which I learned at Belmont and try to churn something out that I was proud of and that I can reclaim that song.
Yeah.
In the way that I wanted to, because I do look back at my record contract. Well, it wasn't a record contract, but look at my contract that I was in prior to POTS and all that stuff, and I'm a little nauseous at it. So, but that's because I went to Belmont, because I wanted to go to Belmont. Because I saw John Bellion do his making of videos, and I was like, I want to do that. I think, if he could do it, I could do it. And B, so I could know what I'm dealing with when I re-enter the music industry. And and All That I Want reimagined is the byproduct of that. And I'm very proud of it. It's exactly the way that I wanted it to sound in the first place. It's just really fun. And also, like, just even the way that I rewrote some of the stuff makes it more, like, it makes it more special to me that all of that happened. And because of All That I Want, now we have the EP, and it really is a catalyst in both ways. I made All That I Want the catalyst in the, me at 11 going and doing all of this stuff, and now I was 21 and recording all of that and doing all that. So it was 10 years. It took 10 years, but we got there.
Yeah.
and I'm really excited for what the next 10 looks like. Really.
Yeah. Well, and because now you're 23,
Mm-hmm.
you've got an EP out. You're literally just 23. So
Yes.
much so that as of today's taping, guys, we have to meet Sierra in a few hours for her birthday dinner.
That is true.
So a happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Sierra, thank you so much for joining Trent and I today for a seat at the table at the mixing room.
Of course.
We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for including us in your journey.
Well, thank you for including me in your journey, because this is all, again, so full circle. It's crazy.
Yes. We wouldn't be sitting at this table doing this if it wasn't for Belmont, if it wasn't for meeting folks like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm
excited to see where this carries us further.
Me too.
That concludes our episode with Sierra Jean. Thank you for bearing with us as we still are figuring out the ropes to making a podcast.
Speaking of which, again, if you are interested in being involved in a creative role in this project, send us a message. We'll be checking our DMs, and we look forward to being in touch with some of you guys. And to the rest of you, thanks again for listening, and we look forward to sharing our next episode with you very soon.